Okay. All right. All right. So hello, guys. It's Mayumi and Aaron with the Lifestyle Business Owner Show. You guys, this is where we talk about the street smarts of small business. We're trying to create this small business revolution, not get rid of those box stores, those big box stores. We want small business owners. That's what our passion is. So if you want to see this episode later on,
or listen to this episode.
Or listen to it, I'm sorry. You can go to lboshow.com. That's lboshow.com. And you can listen to this and any previous episodes that we've recorded in the past. So today, I'm really excited to have this handsome young fella here.
Are you talking about me, Aaron?
I said young fella.
Oh.
No.
And handsome. She said both.
Got to introduce me too.
Okay. Oh, yeah. I guess I should introduce you first before I introduce a handsome young fella. You guys, you know Aaron Muller. He is the host with the most. I like to talk.
I'm the co-host because my wife likes to talk so much.
I do like to talk a lot. So, honey, tell him a little bit about yourself, just really quick. I mean, I know it's about Alan, but just really quick, what do you want to say?
You know, I've been a business owner for the last, ever since I was out of high school. So I don't know how many years that is. I'm 45 years old now. So several years, but I wrote a book called The Lifestyle Business Owner. And this is where we teach people how to buy a good business, get the business to run without the owner and be profitable, and make them, teach them how to enjoy business ownership in a nutshell. So
exactly. And we love it. We own 8 multi-million-dollar companies. I'm going to do a little plug for us that run without us. And the best part of it is that I get to work with my best friend and business partner and my husband. So it's nice. If you guys have that, that's great. If you don't, it works.
All right.
So today our guest is Alan Stein. I'm going to read it, right? Okay. So he is a junior, Alan Stein Jr. He's a junior. So his dad is Alan Stein Sr. He is a coach, speaker, and author of an expertise in improving organizational performance, cohesion, and accountability. God, that's so great for these kids these days.
Smart.
He spent 15 years working with the highest performing basketball players on the planet, including NBA superstar Kevin Durant. Do you guys know who Kevin Durant is? Well, Alan's going to tell us all about that. He now travels the world teaching organizations how to utilize the same strategies in business that elite athletes use to perform at a world-class level. I love it.
Nice.
So, Alan, thank you so much for being on our show.
And you got cool pictures.
On mine.
So people need to see the video of this because he's got all kinds of great shots of him with famous people right behind him, right?
Yes, perfectly staged, which works for these video calls and webinars and so forth.
No, I love it. So actually, give us a little bit of information about your background, and then we'll get all to the goodness, you know, as we kind of start with the background, what your foundation is, and then move forward into today.
Well, sure. As far as what's most applicable, I mean, I've been an entrepreneur my entire life. I mean, I've made my living in the basketball performance space and now as a professional speaker, but I've never had a conventional corporate job my entire life. Ever since I graduated from college, I've always owned my own business. And you know, that's why I've always been so attracted to what it is that you guys are teaching and sharing. And the most important part of that is the lifestyle component. You know, it's living a life that you have, that you find purpose in and that you enjoy and that you have fulfillment and not, you know, working to live per se, but finding something that you love to do and a way to capitalize on.
What do you mean, man? You don't grind like 7 days a week, 24/7. I mean, like, come on, man. You don't want success, do you?
I tell you,
know what day of the week it is, you're not working hard enough, right?
Yeah,
we don't agree with that either.
No, I definitely don't. In fact, you know, I'm as a speaker and an author, it certainly helps, but I'm a student of language and a student of terminology. And there's, you know, every word above and beyond what its actual definition is has some type of connotation in the way we personalize it. And I've never liked the word grind. There's just something about the word grind that, you know, I don't want it used to describe my life. You know, I have a tremendous work ethic. I love what I do. I have high passion for what I do. I put in work during the unseen hours to master my craft, but none of it is a grind. And I take plenty of time for myself to recharge, to spend with my children, to travel, to do the things that I really enjoy in life. And yeah, I wouldn't trade that for anything. So the grind is not something I'm interested in. And certainly not a word that I want on my tombstone by any means.
Yeah.
So
No
I
doubt,
have a
right?
quick thing. So backing up to after you said you've not had a conventional job since, college. So what got you into this? Like, were you an athlete? Did you play sports in high school, college? Kind of give that, like, what kind of gave you the direction or the foundation to be in this realm of
Sure.
business?
Yeah. You know what? I'll piece it all together. What I can say is basketball was my first identifiable passion. I remember falling in love with the game at 5 or 6 years old. And I just recently turned 43, which is why you were correct when you said young. And basketball is still a major staple of my life now. So almost 4 decades later, and it's still, a pivotal part of my life. But I always knew that once my playing days were over, that I would want to make a living in the game that I love so much. So I was able to play in high school, and I played in college, and then saw the writing on the wall was my playing days were over. So I decided to get into coaching. But what really makes the story full circle for what it is that you guys do is both of my parents worked in elementary education. So they were both teachers and very conservative, always went the conventional route. I mean, they both more or less had the same job for 30 years and then retired, and they've got their pension, and, that was great. I always had more of an entrepreneurial mindset, and what it started when I was younger, I wanted to get the Michael Jordan sneakers. I mean, at 43, when I'm coming up and I'm 9, 10 years old, I'm at the age where Michael Jordan is starting to become the global icon that everybody knows today. And, my parents, having very conservative background, couldn't fathom why someone would pay $120 for sneakers back in the late, 80s and early 90s, and basically said, look, we'll give you money for what normal sneakers would cost, 40, 50 bucks. And if you want Jordans, then you earn money and you pay the difference. And I was like, that's cool with me. I'm good with that. So, at 10, 11, 12, 13 years old, this is way pre-internet. So there weren't near as many options for working. I mean, you couldn't, I was too young to actually get a job, at the mall or anything.
Yeah,
so,
you're talking like news, what's that, paper routes,
paper
right?
I mean, for me, it was mowing lawns. It was shoveling snow. I got into baseball cards and would trade and sell baseball cards to try to make some money. And I liked the mindset of, it's up to me to go out there and earn what it is that I want, to have what I want. And I'm very glad that was planted early in my mind. And then they reinforced that when I got older. When I was going to turn 16, they knew I'd want a car. And they basically said, however much money you save, we'll match that for a car. So if you save $2,000, we'll give you $2,000 and double your money, and you can get yourself a $4,000 piece of junk. But
do you think, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, but that was the mindset. So I had the mindset very early that every dollar I saved was the equivalent of $2 in car cash.
Yeah.
So it's time to let's go ahead and put in some work, and let's do an extra lawn on a Saturday, or let's shovel an extra driveway because those things would add up. And I don't think they did that intentionally. I think that they kind of wired me to have this entrepreneurial mindset by accident, because very respectfully, I love my parents very much, but they don't have an entrepreneurial bone in their body. And
but on that, do you think that they wired you, or do you think that was your inborn, just somehow genetically in you already? Because I feel like it was genetically in me already. And so,
because some kids you can offer that and they don't do it.
Yeah.
Well, my brother's a perfect example. I have a younger brother, 3.5 years younger.
Oh God, don't slam him right now, man. He's not gonna be happy.
But my parents would, they would make the same deal to him, and he'd be like, "No, I'll just take regular sneakers.
Yeah.
I don't want the Jordans."
Yeah.
And that part was okay. But the other part that got planted very early that I saw from my parents was, and this speaks to most teachers and educators, they really loved what they did. There's a lot of fulfillment from being a teacher.
Absolutely.
And I learned very early also that you need to find what you love, and you find what you're good at, and then you find where those two things intersect.
Yeah.
And that's where you should, start looking for your purpose and your why. Yeah. So you take the perfect storm of basketball, which is something I was incredibly passionate about.
How tall are you?
I'm 6'1".
Okay,
so
cool.
In basketball terms, rather short, but compared to normal human beings, I guess a little bit above average. So you take the sport that I love and combine that with kind of the entrepreneurial mindset. And then I started to develop an equal affinity for performance training and athleticism. And all of that mixed together created the perfect storm. And when I graduated college, just started my own business as a basketball performance coach.
Nice.
And that served me really, really well for almost 20 years until recently when I made the leap over into the corporate space to do more speaking and consulting. But I've always considered myself a lifestyle business owner, a lifestyle entrepreneur, and wouldn't trade it for the world.
I love that because I, growing up, was an athlete as well. And I feel like a lot of the times, a lot of the things that I learned, I ran track and I played basketball. I loved basketball. My dad was a basketball player. But it really taught me a lot of things in regards to perseverance, consistency, and just doing it, right? Like Nike says. And so when you transfer that over to business, it's such a great match, right? I mean, to come from being an athlete and then being able to teach corporate America, going into, sales meetings and talking to these guys and relating it, maybe they weren't an athlete, but they want it to be, everyone has a sport that they like.
Well, I want to hear from,
so you can relate that.
I want to hear from you. Like, how do you think that business and sports are related? Like, how can you use what you learned in business and apply this in business? I want to know from your words.
The crossover, it's almost identical. In fact, the only way that it's not the same that I figured out is in most sport, you have an identifiable opponent. You know who you're playing against. Where in business, that's not always as clear that you're playing against someone. Outside of that one nuance, they're almost the exact same. When we're talking about principles and foundational characteristics and so forth. Now, clearly, the technical and tactical side of what it takes to coach a basketball team and run a tech business, there's clearly differences there.
Absolutely.
But the underlying principles and the habits and the mindsets and the disciplines of what it takes to be an effective leader, to create a winning culture, to hold each other accountable, all of that stuff is the exact same. And, that's where I'm thankful that I spent so much time in the basketball space, learning from elite players and being mentored by elite coaches, because they've armed me with these life skills that I can now apply to anything. And it's not even just business. I mean, I apply this stuff as a father of 3. I mean, this stuff has helped me in my parenting. So it really is incredibly versatile, and there's a lot of utility to the things that I teach.
That's so awesome. I love it.
So are you, so you said that now you're working with corporate America mostly? Is that right?
Yes. And mostly as a speaker at present. And really what I consider my job. I'll always consider myself a coach. A lot of people, because there's not a really, a clear job description. Most people say, oh, so you're a motivational speaker. And that's not really what I do. I mean, I'll always consider myself a coach. And what I do is I translate everything that I learned from the highest performers in basketball, and I translate that to corporate America and to businesses and to entrepreneurs. So even if they didn't play basketball or don't like sports, I can still teach them the foundational principles and lessons required for them to perform at a high level, because the principles of high achievement, they're not bound to one industry.
No.
I mean, what it took Kobe to be so great is the same thing that it takes Beyonce to be so great, is the same thing it takes Warren Buffett to be, and yes, there are nuances that are slightly different, but generally speaking, this stuff is all the same. And that's one thing that I learned from those high performers. They study each other.
Yeah.
Tom Brady wants to know what Jay-Z does to perform at such a high level, because he knows he can pull little nuggets of that out and apply it to his life. And that's one thing I would recommend all lifestyle entrepreneurs and business owners do, is don't just study your industry. Step outside and learn from anyone that you can, because there's lessons to be learned in everything if you keep your eyes and your ears open.
Oh yeah. I mean, like when we're running our companies, I'm always paying attention to how some other industry is doing something for better customer service or whatever, and it's huge, because if you apply those things that are great in one industry and bring it to another industry, you could totally like revolutionize an industry based off of something else, somebody else's,
Absolutely. Without question. One of the things,
I'm sorry. No, sorry. I think it's listening, listening and observing. It's just like when your coach is telling you at halftime, you're in the locker room and you're down, 20 points, and you can't just be talking shit, right? You got to shut up and listen. and really be in the moment. And I think that a lot of times as entrepreneur and business owners, I think sometimes we think we know everything and we don't listen. So I love it. I love your whole concept. So sorry, go ahead.
No, not at all. I'm glad that you brought that up because that was incredibly insightful. And in fact, if you want to talk about a skill that offers the most utility in any area of life, it's listening. I mean, I can promise you right now that anyone listening to this, you can automatically improve any relationship in your life, whether it's with your spouse,
Absolutely.
with your children, with a coworker, if you get better at the skill of listening. And it is a skill. And how do you get better at any skill? You practice. You put in purposeful practice and you do so with intention. And, you know, one thing that I want to make sure people know, though, is that just because something is basic, it doesn't mean that it's easy. Those aren't synonyms. You know, what it takes to be a good listener is incredibly basic, but it's not easy. And I know for me, listening has been a very challenging skill set to work on and improve, but it's definitely worth the investment.
It's a constant reminder and everything. So let me ask you this. Do people usually listen to you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thankfully they do.
All right. So here's the thing. So you're giving a lot of skill sets, you know, to people like in corporate America. Do you find that people take this advice and do something with it, or do you find a very small percentage do versus, like, let's say you're speaking to 100 people. Out of those 100 people, how many do you think really listen and really get something out of what you teach them? Because we hear all this stuff all the time, you know, on social media, all the motivational quotes and all this stuff to get people like energized. But then, you know, an example is, I won't even mention who it is, but it's somebody we know really well. And they're always like, oh, I love listening to Gary Vee every day. And I said, okay, so are you doing anything with all the information he's giving you and stuff?
Exactly.
I just love it though. It's motivating. I'm like, okay, but are you motivated, man? Like, are you really doing anything with it? So what's your thoughts on that?
I've got plenty, and it starts from
keep it at a small.
I will. I'll give you the cursory glance. What you just hit on is what's called a performance gap, and it's the gap between what we know and what we do. And every single human being on the planet has a performance gap. And again, it's the difference between what we know we're supposed to do and what we do. There's not a fully functional adult in the world right now that doesn't know what healthy foods they're supposed to eat, how much sleep they're supposed to get, and that they're supposed to exercise regularly. There's not a single one doesn't know that. Yet statistically, most Americans are not doing those things. But it's not from lack of knowledge, it's from lack of doing. And that goes back to what we were all taught as kids, or at least I was, which is knowledge is power. And that's not true, or at least it's incomplete. Knowledge is not power. It's the application of knowledge that's powerful.
Absolutely.
You know, I'm sitting here in my home office. I can look over and I've got a beautiful bookshelf full of books. Well, first of all, just the book sitting on my bookshelf doesn't do anybody any good. Like if I'm not reading them, they're not doing anything. But then even if I read them, if I don't change my behavior or act upon what's in the books, then again, they're utterly useless. So the key to performance and the key to happiness and fulfillment is being able to close those gaps and do the things that we know. And here's the crazy part is, and I'm a huge advocate of professional development and continual growth and learning new things. I believe in that. The problem is that part is so sexy that we get consumed by keep learning new stuff and we don't do any of the stuff we already know. And I'll even say this about myself. If I didn't learn another thing for one calendar year, 365 days, I didn't learn anything new, but all I did was implement all of the stuff I already know, you'd see my performance go through the roof. That's how much stuff I know that I'm not currently doing. And most people, if they're being honest, would be able to say the exact same thing.
Well, exactly. And that's why I feel like, you know, for myself, I know I don't get, you know, you hear people say, oh, you got to read a book a month or a book a week or whatever, you know, like all that. I feel like it's so much information and then you just become this, like, you stop like almost listening to a lot of it and stop implementing it because now it becomes overwhelming, right? Because you know, there's so many things. So I think for people, it's like, take whatever, you know, influencer or whatever book you read and try to implement as much as what you just learned as you can, and then go to the next stage and get another book or whatever, get some more knowledge somewhere else. But I think that people that are trying to do too much, have a hard time grasping anything and just not even moving forward. They get frustrated almost, right?
Okay, how about this? What would you recommend to our listeners in regards to implementation? Yeah, that's plain, right? I mean, it's obvious. You implement. So now sustainability, what would be, you see people are like 21 days makes a habit, right? So what kind of suggestions or ideas can you give our listeners as to how to stay on task before you go on to squirrel, not something else,
I'll give you a 3-step process, and I do this
Awesome.
in my keynotes. I do it in half-day workshops and full-day trainings, and I'll give you the very, very short version. And going on to what you guys said, my goal as a coach, as a trainer, is to simplify things as much as possible. They say that a good teacher teaches everything they know. A great teacher teaches only what the student needs. And there's a lot of power to that, because there is information overload in this digital age.
Absolutely.
If you're looking to close a performance gap, step number 1 is you need to pick one singular behavior that you're trying to change. Just one, not multiple. And that's what most people do. Most people try to pick 4 or 5 things change at once. If we use health and fitness as an example, I'm going to start taking yoga. I'm going to hire a personal trainer. I'm going to throw out everything in my cupboard, and I'm going to go start this new diet, and I'm going to hire a nutritionist, and then a couple weeks later, they're not doing any of those things.
Yeah.
Whereas if they said, all I'm going to do is go for one 30-minute walk every single day. That's the only thing I'm going to commit to. I'm not going to worry about anything else. Statistically, they would have a much higher chance of doing that. And what I recommend people do is that they look at either side of the coin. Make a list of the things that you believe you should start doing to improve performance or to close this specific gap, but also make a list of the things you need to stop doing, because you're probably doing things that are getting in the way. And now you have this list to start and this list to stop. And you pick the one thing, just one of both lists that would be the most impactful, and use that to start with. I'm a certified quote nerd. And one of my favorite quotes is, if you chase 2 rabbits, they both get away. So don't chase them, pick one and just go after one. And there was actually some research.
Love that.
There was a guy named John Berardi, started a company called Precision Nutrition, and he did a research study, and he found that when the average person tries to change an average behavior, just one singular behavior, they have an 85% chance of being successful. That's pretty good odds.
Yeah.
But when the average person tried to change 2 behaviors simultaneously, the percentage of success dropped to 35 or 40% for either behavior. And when they tried to change 3, it dropped down to 4 or 5%. Wow. And the reason I bring that up is, like you all and like myself and like your listeners, we're ambitious. We're confident. We believe that we can change multiple things at once, because we're usually pretty good at anything that we try. And we're so hungry for success that we're not patient. We have to just take a beat and say, look, let's gamble on the odds. And I'm just going to pick one thing. Yep. So step 1 is pick one. Step 2 piggybacks on what you just said as far as 21 days. But the research that I've seen says it actually takes around 66 days to start to groove a new behavior. Now, there's nothing magical about that. I'm not implying that on day 67 you wake up and your whole life is different. I just like that number.
Damn it.
I like it because it's somewhat arbitrary and it's easy to remember. I also like it because it's a stretch. Like, that's not super easy to do something for 66 days in a row, but it is doable. No. If I looked at both of you and said, you need to do this thing for the next 6 years and not miss a day, you'd probably be intimidated before you even started. And if I said, hey, you just have to do it between now and Tuesday, you'd probably say, well, that sounds too good to be true. So it probably is. So 66 days is for me, it's just a visual. Again, there's nothing magical about it. And I'm very old school. So I literally have a paper calendar on my desk, and I take out a big red Sharpie. And if I'm trying to change a behavior, I'm not stopping until I get 66 X's in a row. And that's the personal commitment that I need to make. So I pick one thing. I commit to it myself for 66 days. And then the third one, which is incredibly important, is you recruit your inner circle. You get a board of people that are going to hold you accountable, people that love you, that care about you, that want to see you happy. They want to see you successful. But most importantly, they will call you out on your stuff, and they will tell you the things that you need to hear, not what you want to hear. And you go to these people and you say, look,
my wife knows all all this.
I know about that because I just did that.
Yes, and us and the
so
kids
perfect.
And everything, and she gets mad at us. And we're like, well, what the hell, man?
stuff.
You're the one that said you're going to do it, so do it.
But that's what people need. And we have to remember, holding someone accountable is not something you do to them. It's something you do for them. When you hold someone accountable, you're telling them, you're telling them that you love them, that you care about them, that I care about you so much that I'm not going to let you get away with doing something less than your best.
Fat, honey. I love you.
And that's ultimately what it is.
Delivery. Sometimes the delivery might not be as
I
sensitive.
probably shouldn't say it like that. Huh?
Yeah.
All right.
No,
well,
I love that.
And that goes back to having the emotional intelligence to speak other people's, say, love languages and be able to say, like, how can I hold you accountable in a way that you're going to receive this the best?
Exactly.
But I'm telling you now, anyone listening to this, if you're trying to close a performance gap, narrow it down to one thing.
Nice.
You make a personal commitment to doing it for 66 days, and you recruit an inner circle of people that are going to hold you accountable and hold your butt to the fire, and you have a really good chance of doing that. So using my example, I am going to go for a 30-minute walk every single day. I've got my paper calendar, and my goal is to string together 66 red X's. However, I have the humility to know that it's going to be really hard to do on my own, and that I am going to fall off and I am going to miss a day. So I'm going to ask you guys to please hold me accountable. Would you mind texting me every day at lunch and ask if I went for my walk? Would you mind checking in with, and get the people that care about you to do that? And if you do those three things, you will see behavior change. And then as you guys already pointed out, now that you've changed that behavior, now you move on to something else. Exactly. This isn't a one and done thing.
Yeah.
This is, we're constant works in progress.
Man. Great.
So you could do this 4 or 5 times in a calendar year, and you'd be a completely different person than you are right now.
Absolutely. I love that, because going back to your nutrition, at the first of the year happens, everyone's like, I want to lose weight. I'm going to go work out. I'm going to get a personal trainer. Oh, I'm going to do keto. And then you don't know where the F to start because you're just overwhelmed. So I love that. Kevin Durant. So you know him.
I do.
So
I've
tell us.
known him since he was 15.
Wow. So how did that all, I know that everyone's excited to hear about that. So how did that all transpire?
So Kevin and I are roughly from the same, we call it the DMV here, which is the DC, Maryland, Virginia area. And we didn't grow up in the same town, but basically the same general area. And, I had watched Kevin play as a 15-year-old, and within a few minutes, I could tell that this kid loves to play basketball. He is fundamentally sound. He has an incredibly high basketball IQ, but he was rather slight of frame. It was clear that he was on the skinny side and that he needed to get stronger in order to play past high school or play in the NBA. Well, as a basketball strength and conditioning coach, that was my area of expertise. So it took a few months of convincing him and his mom to let him come in for a workout, but finally she did. And I took him through a pretty brutal workout and really laid it on him. And he had never done anything like that before. And he was willing to do those type of workouts moving forward. He craved doing that, even though he hated every second of it. He was willing to make that type of sacrifice because he knew that it was required for him to reach his dream.
Go to the next level. Yeah.
Yes. So, to see a 15-year-old that had the maturity to know that he had to embrace making a change in his life and he had to make a sacrifice, was the first clue that I got that he was going to be really special. And, when I saw him play, and so he ended up playing at the high school where I was the strength and conditioning coach. So he graduated from Montrose Christian. And, back then it was clear he was going to be a great player, but there's no way I had any idea he'd be arguably the second best player in the world.
Awesome, man.
But now that he is, looking back, I'm not remotely surprised because he had the raw materials, the physicality, the mindset, the grit. He was coachable. He was humble. He had all of the raw materials, and he was willing to do things that most people aren't willing to do. But that's why he has things that most people don't have.
Awesome, man. So does he even talk to you anymore then?
I tell you what, he's such a global sensation now. It is.
Who are you?
No, I'll tell you this, because this is in full transparency. It's incredibly hard to track him down now because I don't know if you've ever been around a guy like that. I kid you not. If he looks away from his phone for 5 minutes, he'll have 372 text messages on it when he looks back.
Horrible.
So it's hard to get a hold of him. But still to this day, anytime that I do see him, and I see him once or twice a year, that we're in the same room, he comes right up to me, and this shows you what a remarkable guy he is. The very first question he asked me after he says, "How are you doing, Alan?" is, "How are your kids?" Like, how amazing is that?
Yeah, that's cool.
That's awesome.
He knows what's important to you, right?
He knows exactly what's important to me. And because I'm important to him, that now becomes important to him. And, you know, it's hard to get his attention for more than a few minutes because everyone's clamoring for it.
Right.
But the last few times I've seen him, he looks me right in the eye, gives me a good hug, says, "How you doing? How are the kids?" And that just speaks volumes of the type of person he is. And it's, you know, what I found too, being somewhat of an outsider to these guys that are high performers, you know, they live in a fishbowl and everybody makes snap judgments based on very limited information.
Right.
So he may say something at a press conference that turns some people off and people think, man, this guy's a jerk. I can't believe he just said that. I can tell you from, you know, experience, having known him since he was 15, he is as good of a human being as you will ever meet. And I'm thankful that I don't have to live under the scrutiny and live in the fishbowl that he does, because it's really challenging.
Yeah, but he's got the mental, you have to have the mental toughness to deal with that. But, you know, going back to what you said, I love that because we know our kids all do sports and everything. And, you know, they're really at the high performance level, collegiate. It's funny how when you see ones that don't listen, have the attitude, but have that skill set, but they aren't successful because they're not implementing the things that you would have implemented to them. So if Kevin would have been some snot-nosed little kid, punk-ass kid, you know, that was like, I'm not going to listen to this dude.
Yep.
Things might have changed, you know, a little bit, the direction. Maybe he still would have probably gotten to where he was at, but maybe it might have taken longer. So I really, you know, what is so important to let people know is everyone has the skills. Everyone has the talent, right?
Yep.
But it's how you use it and how you utilize it is the key to becoming successful or becoming, you know, whatever. I don't want to throw a job out there, but you know, a job that you want to do.
I haven't told this story publicly very often. I believe I mentioned it in the book, but this is the moment that I knew Kevin was going to be really, really special. I picked him up early one morning on a Saturday morning from his apartment, and we went to the local, it was kind of a YMCA, an open gym, and it was super early in the morning. And the lady working the front desk, I mean, I didn't ask her for her driver's license, but she was probably 70. I mean, she was an older lady, and it was just Kevin and I, and we were walking into the gym, and he was always incredibly quiet. And like any teenager, quiet is even more so at 6 a.m. Like you're downright grouchy and irritable. And we walked in and we walked past the lady at the front desk and she said, "Good morning." And Kevin didn't say anything back and he kept walking. And the lady said, "Excuse me, young man, I just said good morning." And for a split second, I thought, oh gosh, you know, a typical teenager is going to turn around and tell this lady where she can stick it, or is going to say something rude. And he turned around and said, "I'm so sorry, ma'am. You're right. Good morning." And that was when I knew at that moment, he was humble, he was coachable, he has good values, and above and beyond obviously being coachable and having good values is not good enough to make the NBA. Like, you've got to be able to put the ball in the basket.
Absolutely.
But I've seen some amazing players that didn't have that type of character, that it ended up, you know, cutting their legs out from under them later.
Yeah,
that was one moment that I knew this is a good dude that's been raised the right way. And, you know, that just speaks volumes of the kind of person he is. And it also lends to the motto that how you do anything is how you do everything. That you can't compartmentalize excellence. You can't compartmentalize greatness. You know, you can't be a good person at work and then act like a jerk at home, or vice versa, and expect to really have a happy and fulfilling and enriching life. Like 100%. Who you are on and off camera, or on and off social media, there needs to be a lot of alignment between those things in order for you to truly be happy and successful.
I agree.
Absolutely.
So let's just tell everybody, what is your book? What's the name of your book? And then also, if you have any kind of giveaways or how to get a hold of you, or any promos or anything like that you want to let our audience know about, and then we will just wrap it up.
Yeah, we want our listeners to know about your book, how to get a hold of you, and
I think the book might even be peeking out behind me.
Oh, there it is.
Oh, awesome.
It's called Raise Your Game, High Performance Secrets from the Best of the Best. And I studied not only basketball and sports best, but business's best, and organized what it takes to have high performance in anything. If you go to raiseyourgamebook.com, you can find out anything you want about the book. You can opt in to our email, and you can do that on alansteinjr.com as well. And I can send you the key themes. It's a 10-page PDF that I talk about in my keynotes and my workshops and trainings. I'll also send you the list of the 8 books every leader must read. I'll give you a hint. It's actually 12 books because I couldn't narrow it down to 8. And I'm at Alan Stein Jr. on Instagram, LinkedIn, all of the major social channels. I love engaging with folks. So anyone that was listening or watching, if something in this conversation resonated with you, please drop me a line on IG or anything like that. I would love to have some dialogue. I really admire and respect and appreciate what you guys are doing, and very thankful to have an opportunity to share with you guys.
You're awesome, man. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
And we definitely got a lot out of this. We got something out of it. We love it when a guest can come on and give us some of that great knowledge and nuggets. And I love
we wrote them down.
1, 2, 3 steps.
I love the performance gap.
Love it. All right, my man. Thank you so much for being on.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
Wow. We want to thank our guest, Alan Stein Jr. He uses that name for all of his Facebook, Instagram. Go out and get that book he was talking about, Raise Your Game. He says that it's at raiseyourgame.com, or you can go to Kindle and grab his book. It's on Audible and just your Kindle, or if you want a paperback, like old school, do that. He was amazing. And I always love when when guests are like that, where they're making the transition from one area to another, but still utilizing the same tools. So he basically took his love and passion and desire for basketball, all the techniques, and crossed it over to business and helping business managers and CEOs and business owners, get into the system of having that passion, drive, and desire and foundation so that they can grow what they're doing, whether it's their own business or working for someone.
And it just makes him that much better at it because he loves it, right?
Absolutely.
So Mayumi, let's get into the LBO segment. This is where we kind of talk about the street smarts of business, just some challenges as business owners we all have. I want to kind of help people be better business owners in their lives and be able to get a business so it runs successfully without them having to work in it every single day and be a slave to their business and hate it.
You don't like it so much.
No, man. I mean, so here, I want to talk today a little bit about what do you do when business gets slow? Because there's always things that go on in business, right? I mean, like right now in Seattle, we have had the most snow we've had in
Snowmageddon
20, 30 years. It's insane, man.
Snowmageddon is hit.
It fucking sucks. I will tell you that. And the thing is that, we have to dig deep in ourselves to deal with it. And what do we do? And our business is down, and we have industries that are like, we're out washing trucks and pressure washing and even auto repair shops and all of it. I mean, everything is down right now. So what do you do when business gets slow? Do you just freak out? Do you shut down? And a lot of people might do that. They might actually just say, you know what, I can't even deal with this stress, and I don't even want to think about it. I'm just going to watch TV, or I'm going to, just really kind of go to the bar and drink, or whatever you may, feel like doing, and just retract from everything, or you just kind of lounge around the office or whatever. But you can actually take this experience and this situation as an opportunity to really dial in your business more and actually get it so that when it gets busy again, things are just running that much smoother. So
this is the time,
because now you have the time to do it. It sucks.
You have time.
But now you can take the time to think, maybe investigate ways of building your business in another way. Look at some of your digital marketing. One thing that I did recently was I sat at the computer and I just started doing some house cleaning on my digital marketing stuff. I noticed my LinkedIn wasn't even really all the way done, and some social media SEO stuff wasn't all put together the way it should be. So I spent time just kind of investigating that stuff so that I could be better and our companies can be stronger down the road in that time.
And those are little things that you just don't have the time to do when your business is busy. So you've got to take the opportunity when your business is down or slow or has a little dip to really focus on the things that you weren't really focusing on when the business was busy.
Yeah, because if you don't do it when you're slow, you're never going to do it when you're busy. So
Absolutely.
anyways, the other thing is stay positive.
Yeah.
It's going to pass. Maybe something happened. Maybe it was a natural disaster. Maybe it was just the fact that you got slow, you know, but take the opportunity to stay positive, do a lot of good self-talk. You know, maybe you got to listen to some, you know, great motivational videos or tapes or something out there just to kind of keep you going, because slap yourself out of it. Your business will never do well if you're not motivated and positive about things and wanting to make it better. All right, guys, thanks for listening to us today. We had fun, and we will see you next time.
You can listen to us if you've missed this episode or any other previous episodes. You can go to lboshow.com. That's lboshow.com. Or you can also go and sign up for our academy.
Well, actually,
right?
there's a free training.
Yeah, we have free training right now at Lifestyle LBO Academy. Sorry, lboacademy.com. Go to our website, click on it, and you can get free videos. They're amazing.
And this is actually what you're going to get is how to buy a business training, free video trainings on how to buy a business. Because if you don't own a business right now, you might want to get into one, and you might want to. The best way that we preach is buy a business. We're going to teach you a lot of things in these free videos. Check it out.
We took the time to do these and create these for you guys because that's what we do. Exactly, the videos and the process that we are teaching you guys is the way that we do it. And that's why we own 8 companies that run without us. So go to lboacademy.com, sign up for your free videos, and we will see you next time.
Take care.